Hello.
Hey everyone.
Hi.
All right. So, how is it going? This is To Inclusivity and Beyond. Um, Welcome. I wish you all well. And today we're doing the whole story. We're talking about National Latinx HIV AIDS Awareness Day and National Coming Out Day as well. Those just passed. So, yesterday, the 15th, was the National Latinx HIV AIDS Awareness Day. And then on the 11th was National Coming Out Day. We're in St. Pete. We're in Tampa area. So we've got our Come Out to St. Pete coming up this weekend. So lots going on. And welcome. So that's what we're talking about today. So let's go ahead and do some introductions. My name is Tommy. I am a prevention and sexual health educator here at Metro. I use he, him, and his pronouns, but you can use whatever. And Pablo, go ahead.
Hey everyone, my name is Pablo and I work with Tommy as a prevention sexual health educator here at Metro Inclusive Health in St. Pete. My pronouns are he, him, his, but if the price is right, you can call me whatever you want. And I'm going to toss it over to Daniel.
Hey, I'm Daniel. I am also part of prevention sexual health at Metro, assigned to Zero Pinellas. My pronouns are he, they, and beyond. And other than that, I think that's the most news on me. I'll pass it on to Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam. He, him, his. Yeah, and I'm here.
That's great to have you here, Sam. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So we got a couple things to get off the plate, and then we can go into the conversation. So I talked about what we're talking about today. But before we start, this is the whole story. So I want to kind of do that little intro again one more time. So Pablo and I were talking one day, and we wanted to introduce this new series of podcasts. So Pablo, do you want to go into a little bit more depth of the story of how we came up with the whole story?
Oh, yeah. So in one of our group sessions that we have here, it was virtual, and I remember you were there with me, and Sam, I'm pretty sure, was there too. And we were talking about like the Vagina Monologues, and I don't even know how that came up. But I also mentioned how like, oh, well, if there's a Vagina Monologues, maybe there should be one that's a little more like open to everyone. So we came up with the whole story because it kind of plays on the word like whole and whole. So like W whole, get it? Funny. So we decided to do this, and we're going to bring topics that kind of encompass sexual health and things beyond that. So like emotional wellness before having sex and testing and stuff like that. So yeah, we're really excited to be here.
Awesome. And before we get started, we always like to go over the rules of play or community guidelines, whatever you want to call them. So this space is a safe space for all of us. It's for fun, for conversation, and if you want to learn something, that's cool too. We don't judge. To go take that a little bit further, don't yuck anyone's yum. So we're here supporting each other. We're talking about sexuality. So we're talking about different things that we care about. Just know to respect each other. I'm talking to all the viewers. So know that like we may talk about many different things, but be open, listen. And we're going to respect each other. And I hope if we have something or if you have an idea of something that you want us to talk about sometime on this podcast, let us know. We're open. We got lots of ideas, but we want to take it many different places. So let's get back into it. National Latinx HIV AIDS Awareness Day, National Coming Out Day. So to start, why are we having this conversation? What do you think is an important part of why we should have this conversation?
I think it's important to raise awareness around just HIV in general, but I think it's important to highlight like kind of like communities that fall within that. And again, just raise awareness because it is happening to everyone, and some people may have their own ideas about who it affects more. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to focus on everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Daniel, you have anything off the bat?
No, yeah, there's kind of a TED talk. It goes more about literature, but it talks about the dangers of a single story. And this kind of helps break that. It's like, everyone has their view on the world or their view of, something, and that usually feeds into a stigma or preconceived notions. But then when you start enlightening, expanding beyond that, reading other forms of literature, informing yourself beyond what you already know, it opens your eyes to how the world really is, and how these stigmas really are just constructs.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I want to go over a couple of facts, and we can kind of talk about each of them. But most of them are from the CDC. They're somehow drawn from the CDC. Some of them are on different websites that I got. But so in 2017, HIV continues to be a serious threat to Hispanic and Latino communities. In 2017, adult and adolescent Hispanic and Latinos made up 26%, or 9,800 something, of the 38,000 new HIV diagnoses in the United States and dependent areas. So I just wanted to show that fact. I feel like sometimes it's hard to understand like big numbers like that. Sometimes it's hard to really see it in a place, but it's always good to just start with that. Any thoughts off the bat for that one?
Yeah, I can actually add to that too. So for my group this week, for mine and Daniel's group, we were also talking about this in our City Mix sessions, and I found data from 2018 about like basically recent numbers for HIV. And in 2018, there were 10,246 new cases for the Latino community. So that is a jump of 357 cases from the numbers that you gave just now.
Yeah.
And of that, it breaks down into for men, it was 8,977 cases, and for women, it was 1,269.
Okay.
Just to sprinkle that in there.
Yeah, yeah. And then also, there are some challenges to meeting this community. There are some challenges for people in the Latinx community, Hispanic community, becoming aware of their status, knowing where to get resources, feeling comfortable with resources. 1 in 6 Latinx or Hispanic people living with HIV are unaware of their status. So I think that's an important reason to have this conversation today. It's important because if people are out there not knowing, not being able to get the medical care that they need, and the other mental care, whatever care that they need to take care of it, it's going to continue to spread. It's going to continue to be a challenge for many people. Also, prevention services can be inaccessible or untrustworthy for fear of disclosing immigration status, for mistrust of the medical system. As many people know, fear of the medical system, mistrust of the medical system is very valid fear. Even to this day, there are allegations of forced hysterectomies. There's allegations of sterilizations taking place on immigrant women. So that's pretty scary stuff. And it can be really stigmatizing. It can be really something that pushes people away from getting treatment they need. If others like you are getting mistreated in the medical community, it can be really scary. So yeah, I just wanted to start with a couple of those things. But yeah, any thoughts off the bat before we continue?
I guess, today I was having a conversation at work, but, and it does come up, and I think a lot of people aren't aware. For those not living in Florida, or for those living in Florida who are not aware, that Florida ranks 2nd in the U.S. for the rate of new HIV diagnoses. And the Tampa Bay area, which is Hillsborough and Pinellas, both place in the top 10. It kind of opens a lot of people's eyes when they hear that fact, or when people say, they had a scare and they looked it up, and now, they're actually today, in quote, the client was saying, why don't people know more about this? Why aren't people aware and acting on this information that they live in an area where this is very prevalent?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So, Sam, I think this is a good place for us to introduce you. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself. Go ahead into your story, and we'll get into some questions. But Where do you want to start?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. Like, this is cool. I've never done something like this before, so yeah.
We're so glad to have you.
Right?
At least not
Same.
lying. Like, I'm sitting here like, don't mess up.
It is so chill here. You don't have to worry about that. I mess up all the time, so.
No, you had a question. Your question was, why is it important to have this conversation? And for me, all I kept thinking about was like, knowledge is power. You know, like to have this dialogue. You know, to start getting this talking. It reminded me, like, when I'm growing up, we didn't talk about a lot of things. None of this stuff was, accepting, coming out. Like, you stayed in the closet in the Latino home.
Yeah.
Like, you stayed way well into your adult. Well, your mother has to die before you come out. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just my opinion. And I like to use comedy as a defense mechanism, but it's a part of it is true. You know, myself and my brother, we both have HIV. We're both in the community. You know, he came out at 14. I came out at 22. You know, it was very, very different. Two different type of things. My brother walked into the room and was like, "Mom, I'm gay," and I begged him not to share. I begged him not to go. You know, because the only why I begged him, not because I didn't want him to do it. I begged him because it wasn't the right moment. Like, I'm the oldest, so I knew things, you know, and I knew things about my mom at that moment that she wasn't gonna take the news right. She kicked him out the room. She's like, "Get out the room." And he was like, "I did that," and like, he walked away like he owned it, you know. And so I saw that, and it was weird because, like, I saw that, and I instantly admired him for doing that. Like, I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, I waited until I was 6,000 miles away. I was stationed in Japan, and it was New Year's, and that year everybody was coming out, and everyone was like, "I want to do it. I want to do it." I'm like, "Well, I don't care if it's the last hour or the last day of the year. I'm gonna do it." Meanwhile, on the last hour of the last day of the year showed up, and then my friends are like, "Hey, did you already do it?" And I said, "No." And they're like, "Well, you're gonna have to call now." And so I called, and sure enough, it was 9 o'clock in the morning over here. My mom's getting ready she's cooking, and I'm like, "Oh." I'm finding every excuse not to tell her because, you know, I already know what's going on. And I'm like, "Look, this is what's up. I'm gay." And she says, she was quiet for a while, but something that I learned from my brother, I applied here. My brother was just like, "This is who I am," and that's it. He didn't explain. I explained. I studied things. I paid attention to all my other friends, and I talked to people, like families of people who came out, and the biggest thing was that they didn't understand. They just don't know how to react. They thought that there was something wrong with themselves. And so what I did was, I took that education and I applied it to my mom. I was like, "Mom, you didn't do anything wrong." I'm like, "Look, I'm in the military. I graduated high school because, you know, like that no one in my family graduated high school. You know, I've done these things. Like, you're not a failure because of something that I chose. This is something I chose to be. You know." And I took ownership of it. And what a lot of people don't know is that I have a daughter, and my daughter was just born right after I came out. And my mom was like, "What about her?" And I'm like, "Well, what about her? Like, when the time comes, we'll sit down, we'll talk to her, we'll explain to her what's going on." But, you know, but until then, we just keep it to ourselves. Everybody knows, everybody's okay with it. And so it was a pleasant thing, you know. She appreciated the explanation about it. So yeah, I don't know, should I keep going or?
Well, I was going to ask, what year was it whenever you came out?
Okay, I was 22. 2006. Was it? Yes, it was December 31st, 2006. It was 11 o'clock at night. I remember because we was at the club. We only had an hour left to.
I didn't even know what a club was. I was in 4th grade in 2006. So, so there's that.
I have a follow-up question too. So this is for everybody too. This isn't just Sam. So this is for everybody to, if you want to provide some idea on this. So we're talking about coming out. So how did you decide the right time? Because I know I'm going to tell a little bit about my story of coming out, and then we can kind of talk about it from there. So when I came out, when I was like in 7th grade or something, I came out because it was a vindictive move. Like I had kind of fought with my mom for a little while. I was hiding it, so I was really nervous, and it built up inside me. And coming out for me was me like getting mad at her and like coming out in spite. And maybe that's what you're kind of referencing with your brother. I don't know, but like coming out for me, that was kind of why I came out. But since then, worked through it, gotten over that reasoning, I guess. So what is the right time? How do you decide the right way to do it or the right time? Yeah.
I think for me, it's weird because like it was like on the verge of like a mental breakdown, but like I was really, I laugh about it. See, I'm like Sam, like I'm also someone that likes to laugh through my pain. But for me, it was interesting because I was in a relationship at the time, and it was a very happy, like healthy relationship too. Like nothing was bad, but still, I knew like this was something about myself. Like coming out as bisexual was something that I had to do, and I was just afraid that I would never have the chance to really explore this part of myself, like ever, if I kind of remained like in this relationship. It almost felt like I was kind of lying to myself in a way. So like one day I was like working, and I literally just like kind of broke down in this office, and I'm just like, I have to like just be honest with myself because like this literally hurts. So I came out to my partner at the time, and it kind of just went uphill from there, and it was great. And I'm actually with this person again. So it all worked out for the better. But yeah, it was cool. And I told my mom like maybe a week later, and she was just like, "Oh, I love you either way, but I always knew." I'm like, that's not what you tell someone whenever you come out to them, but thanks, Mom, I love you too. Also, Mom, if you're watching, hi.
When coming out goes too well, you're like, what?
Like, okay, yeah, sure.
Removed from chat. Oh gosh, the right time to come out. I think that depends on everybody. I mean, and that's kind of like, the journey, they say life is what happens when you're busy making plans. So you might have this methodical thing, but then something might happen and bam, like we're human, but it's all part of the journey. So I think to each their own on it. I was very I'm super analytical, so very methodical, chose when I finally came to terms with myself about it, which was a very long process. As you can see, there's a lot of gray hairs. I picked out the people that I felt wouldn't throw me away, so quickly, and singled them out and slowly worked my way up to the people that obviously I lived with, which were parents or, people I saw, or the people closest to me blood-wise, which are parents. So I worked my way up, and then even through them, it was my stepmom, because your stepmom, when you got that relationship with her, it's like my grandmother. That was a mistake. That was 3 months. After that, that was 3 months of absolute hell. But now we're great. My mother, and then my dad, and then my stepdad. I never got to tell because my mom kind of blew the horn on that, and I never actually. It's one of those things I never actually sat down with my stepdad to kind of do that closure, because I knew he knew, and it's Christianity not Christianity, religion and the affront to homosexuality on it gets involved with that. So I've never really had that closure with him, and I kind of regret not having that.
Mhm.
But I think when the right time to come out really is, whenever someone's ready. I would say there's 3 phases. There's like the pre-contemplative type of thing. We use this all the time, don't we? Where you're still coming to terms with yourself, doing this, that, the other. And then I don't think people ever have to really just jump right into it when they've finally come to terms with it with themselves, to have to tell anybody right away. I'm kind of more the person that's like, once you're in a transitional phase in your life and you're ready to make that next jump, take a second in the middle to just appreciate where you've come, how far you've come, and then make that next jump, which would be like, coming out to people or telling the closest people and all that.
Yeah, I was gonna say you bring up a really good point with that too, Daniel, because like you tell your closest people first that aren't going to leave you for that. You tell them and you feel a little bit better afterwards because you kind of have that certainty and like they're always going to be there and they're going to have your back. So even if you work your way up and you tell the people that may be difficult, you at least know that you still have this incredible community and your friends that you could always go back to, even if your parents or someone that you consider really close kind of turns you away for that. So yeah, I actually kind of found that to be true too.
Mm-hmm.
Sam,
and coming
like
out to my grandma was not one mistake. In case she's watching, that was totally just.
Oh, okay.
There's a 3-month transition
right now.
Right? Yeah, there she is. No, I'm kidding.
And Samuel, you were going to say something. Looked like.
Yeah, it's like I'm thinking to that, like that whole year, like I decided that I wanted to tell. I made the decision, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna find the right time. But it's crazy because every time I made that decision and I would call, something happened. My brother found out he was HIV positive. You know what I mean? And so we're like, oh, well, that's can't tell her now. You know what I mean? And then the next time it happened, it was my sister got pregnant. And I'm like, well, I definitely can't say this now. And so what I loved about my group of friends at that time was that I was secretly using those things as excuses not to say anything because I was so afraid of what my mom would say. And these 2 of my best friends took me out of the club and sat me down. They're like, it's never going to be the right time. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to decide that this is the moment, and don't worry, we'll be here with you. And so like I had that experience of having 2 of my good friends be with me no matter what the outcome was going to be, and it came out way better than I thought it was going to be. So when is it the right time? Who knows? Like sometimes you just have to make that moment, that time.
Yeah, I think it's a real common experience for people to be like, yeah, it's not the right time. There's something in the way, I can't do it now. Yeah.
I've got something in the microwave, not yet.
There's a literal bun in the oven.
But you feel so much better once you do it. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I think along with like coming out, there's a sort of like a battle between coming out and being visible and being a role model, or not needing to come out, not needing to disclose, to be able to just like be who you are without telling people or without ever coming out. Like that would be, the perfect world, whatever. But how do y'all feel about that? Do you stand firmly on the other side of like, oh, it's really important to come out, or it's important to know that like you don't need to come out to be who you are. You don't need to do this, because that's like a common thing to think about when you're thinking about coming out. Yeah.
I always tell people if you're comfortable with it, if that's what you want to do, go for it. Like I support you. You know what I mean? For me, I didn't want to come. I wanted to just be normal. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to come out. It was important to come out to my family, but I didn't want it to be something, and it turned into this for me at least, a label that I had to uphold. Like I had to be the gay best person. You know what I mean? Like, or the best gay person ever. You know what I mean? Like I had to do it very well to the T. I had to wear the specific clothing. I had to walk this certain way, and it became, for me at least, this big, huge thing. And all I wanted
do these shoes match the socks?
Like, no, my socks matched my underwear, my t-shirt matched my pants. Like it was like everything was named brand too. You know, and so yeah, it became such a big thing. Like it just every year or every new person, their expectations of who they thought I should be was just this thing. And all I wanted to do it was be known as this Samuel. Like I didn't want to be the gay best friend.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be, oh, this is, my this or that, whatever. I just wanted to be Samuel. That's it. Anything after that is just, it's what I do. It's
Mm-hmm.
who I am, but it's not who defines me,
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I digress. So when I tell people, when people ask me, is this the right time or should I do this or whatever, I say it's up to that person, how they feel. Is it a big thing? It's up to them. So.
And I think on the other side of that coin too, like for some people, coming out is very necessary, and having to announce and like say and profess their sexuality is very necessary for them, because maybe bottling it up or keeping it in doesn't really help them, which is, I think, was my case. Like, keeping it inside wasn't the best thing for me. And saying it out loud is what kind of made it real, and it was what kind of made it all happen. So I think for some people that is a very necessary and healthy thing to do.
Verbalizing almost like brings it to life in full circle within themselves.
Yeah, disclosing your sexuality.
I think there's another layer to that too. Now, going back to the question was basically like, does it define us and stuff?
I suppose my question was more, do you feel like it's more important to come out and be a role model, or is it more important to know that, like, we're just humans, you don't need to come out to be who you are?
Yeah. Okay. I was associating, because another common question I think a lot of people get is like, that they don't want to be associated as gay. They want to be associated as Daniel, or, Pablo's not gay first. He's Pablo first. I thought we were going to go more that route. That's another topic. Where was it with that? I think I had a little brain fart. Save that one for later.
It's all good. It's all good.
We love brain farts. I always get brain farts. I get brain farts on the live all the time, so it's fine.
Silent but deadly.
The queen of brain farts.
Yeah. I also think this was like relates to the conversation around bisexuality and visibility. Like talking about, do you need to come out if you're bi, but your partner you look from outside to be a straight couple. Like, do you need to come out? Is that important? To some people it is, and to some people it's not. But I think that's a similar like conversation to have too, or a different conversation to have. Yeah, go ahead. You got this. Got the snickies.
My brain's back on track. I got two of them for you. So first off, Sam brought up something really neat, and that is basically what people perceive gay is supposed to look like. I think a lot of people encounter that, and people, they think they have to dress a certain way, look a different way, etc. They don't realize like there is a whole spectrum of everything. Just like you can have emo, goth, preppy, jocks, the artist, the whatever, the cook. I mean, the list goes on. I think people forget that's like that same variety still applies to everybody. Still, their sexuality doesn't remove anything from that. Their sexuality does not take them out of that picture and put them into another world. They're still on that same globe as everybody else. And I think that's something a lot of people tend to do naturally, but it's just like a human thing that we like to do, is like we like to understand things, and that's why we put names and definitions to things so that we can further divide it into understandable chunks. But sometimes when we do that, we forget to reverse that and be like, okay, that's cool for understanding, but it's not cool to lump people into these little shelves. They're not shelf pieces. And on the topic of like people coming out, I do believe it is up to the person, because we can't tell what their relationship levels are, what kind of depth they want to have with certain people, or what their internal monologue has been with them reaching those terms within themselves. Some people know since they were 6 years old. Some people don't realize it until they're 20, and that's, all of that's okay. But I do know that sometimes people, well, not sometimes, for people to have relationship building and relationship depth, it usually means they're being more vulnerable with others and exposing themselves more. Now, that's a double-edged sword because it also means the other person now has more information that can be used against them. But at that same time, when people expose those inner layers, that builds trust as long as that trust hasn't been broken. And that builds further on that relationship if somebody wants that, that to happen, to really cultivate a relationship further, make it deep. And it doesn't necessarily have to make it romantic. It can be just, completely platonic and still be like, as close as a romantic lover, but, without the sex. Those are different things. And that's another topic too, when it comes into different relationships and what those look like health-wise.
Mhm.
I think there was a point where I might have lost what it was about, what your comment was about. But you're talking about how it's important to come out to a partner because, like, for understanding. Is that what you're referencing?
It's basically just opening up yourself, Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to like people being partners, it's like the more you know about the other one, the
Yeah.
deeper your roots grow together, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, a level of vulnerability. It's like you don't, you can go around and do you tell a complete stranger on the street, hey, I'm gay? What's the value of them knowing that versus telling your significant other, hey, or a very close friend, hey, I'm bisexual. I want to share this with you because this is a part of me I don't want, I want you to know, type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if we get that reciprocated feeling of acceptance and love, that just like, bam, win-win.
Yeah, definitely. I can understand that. It's important to like tell people. I mean, any type of thing. It's always important. Like you can tell people that you're close to anything, and there's a lot of different things that you can disclose about yourself or reveal about who you are that help you get closer to other people. I think there is also like another side of it to be said. Just it's important not to. A lot of people agree that sexuality is fluid, and while it may take years to grow, our taste buds change, our behavior changes over time, like our bodies change. Who we are changes over time too. So it's important to allow yourself to not be boxed in too. In the case that your sexuality, your who you are in your relationships is able to shift and change as well over time. I think that's another important part of it. So sometimes it can feel like coming out can be boxing yourself in too. But I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing to come out. Obviously, it's a good thing. Yeah.
No, absolutely. You've got the what you're just touching on is a lot of people think that sexuality is 100% men, 100% woman, or 100%, or excuse me, or 50-50. Mm-hmm. But the Kinsey scale goes over. It's like it's a whole different range. You can be 10% men, 90% women. You can be 40% into men, 60% into women. And I'm a very firm believer of the Kinsey scale. Mm-hmm. We break down sexuality as just. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. You continue.
No, I was going to say, I definitely would say, going back to like the comment I was making, when we like to understand things and we put labels on them, mm-hmm. by doing that to a certain extent, we actually are just, again, caging something into a little bubble just so we can understand it, when in reality, there's so much more to it, so much more behind it. So saying someone's gay really doesn't tell you everything about them, or, saying they're bi when they could be more into women, or they might be more into guys, or someone's gay, but they might be open to something with women, vice versa, blah, 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 all sorts of combinations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm making my head hurt with this one.
Okay. So here, let's back up a step. So we were talking about HIV, and we're also talking about coming out. So is it the same conversation for disclosure? HIV status, STD status, whatever? Is it the same conversation? Is it, is there a difference in the importance of coming out and the importance of disclosing status? How does that, how do you think about that? Yeah.
If it fulfills something deep inside you, then maybe you should heed that call, because it's better to, I guess it's like the whole idea of it's better to love and have hurt than never have loved at all. Very loosely, but like reword that and put it back into that.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to touch on any of the differences, but I do know that there could be similarities with disclosing like any like STI statuses or coming out, so disclosing your sexuality. At the end of the day, like you're both going to be faced with some kind of stigma. Like you never know how the other person's going to react, depending on what you say and how they take it. But yeah, that's honestly what all I'm thinking of right now is like there's that similarity of like I'm going to tell this person something and it could result in something, really bad or something really good. I just won't necessarily know.
Anything personal about like your values or who you are or something deep about you, that can always have that effect. Like I don't know how someone's going to take this. I really don't know.
Anything from you, Sam?
Choosing my words, I'm thinking. I'm telling you, this podcast got me thinking.
Word count is 200 minimum.
No, they're both equally important, but I just know that it depends on who you're disclosing to, and I'll give you an example. In Pablo's statistics that he shared earlier about new HIV
diagnosis.
I fall into that statistic. I found out that I was HIV positive December 2017. So, I'm like new to like the whole disclosure thing. And I went to go disclose this to my mom. And I never got a chance to disclose it to my mom because I had shared this information with someone prior, and that person went ahead and told my mom. Right? So I never had that moment with her. I could just only imagine, you know what I mean? But that taught me the importance of who do I disclose and when do I disclose, and then it has to be me who discloses. You know what I mean? Like I shared this information with this person because I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I'm also a recovering addict, so at that time, I was still heavy in my addiction. So my mom already knew I was an addict. To throw on to the fact that I'm HIV positive, that would just kill her. And so I sought advice from this person. This person went ahead and told my mom anyways. So now when I disclose to people, I do it for educational purposes. For example, I go to meetings, right? If in that moment I feel like I need to share, to disclose, I will. It's part of my story. I got HIV because I had unprotected sex because I was using drugs. This person told me he had HIV and I still went ahead and did it. You know what I mean? I share that because it's important to share that in those kinds of settings, like I said, in an educational setting. I have yet to have a disclosure with a partner that I've been intimate with. So that's still a new thing.
Love that one. Yeah.
But yeah.
But how about, so you said educational setting. So what about the personal setting? I think that is a really unique thing, that disclosing HIV status is very separate from like coming out in that way, you know? Well, I guess, you know, there is a similarity to coming out too, where, you know, if it's something that you know you're going to get bad feedback from, it's important that who are close to you, it's important that who you tell respects those boundaries and respects that it's your job to tell someone. It's not their job. You can't disclose, or you can't come out for other people. At least it feels like that's wrong. That's not the right way to go about it. But yeah. So you were talking about education. So I don't know if you want to explain more about like personal, like how you decide when.
It's gonna sound weird. I normally go with my gut.
Yeah.
I have this feeling, you know, like I get a warm fuzzy feeling. I know it sounds corny, but I do. Little voice in the
Like
back
Grease.
of my head, right? Little voice in the back of my head kind of like just says, all right, I think this is the right time to disclose, to share. You know, we talk about differences between the coming out and the disclosing, and this is gonna sound bad, so please don't don't judge me. But I feel that with disclosing the HIV status for me felt kind of like it had more weight, but in a bad way than it was coming out. You know, I felt like disclosing it and having this conversation with my mom. I didn't disclose it to her, but I was able to have the conversation with her. I just felt, for lack of a better term, dirty. I felt like, you know, I did something wrong, you know, and now here I'm telling her, and I'm thinking that she's thinking, well, this is what you get, kind of situation, you know what I mean? And so it just, coming out was just like this fun thing, and it was just light and everything, and disclosing to her was just was dark almost, you know. But I like everybody else, I got nothing but love from my mom. Shoot, the best compliment I even got from my mom today was, I forget that you had it.
It gets to that point, right?
Yeah.
And first off,
I think that's another value.
What?
Sorry, go ahead, Pablo.
No, I was going to say, like, I really appreciate you sharing and being really vulnerable with us, Sam. So I really love that. And honestly, ever since you've been coming to our groups, you've always been that way. So I love that so much about you. I'm sorry, Daniel, what were you going to say?
No. It was I guess more praise to like Sam's mom, because it's like her view is the right one. It's like, just like gay doesn't define somebody, you know, the disease doesn't necessarily define somebody. That might mean they have to take extra stuff in their life, or, you know, extra precautions, whatever. You know, diabetics have to use insulin, but it doesn't change the person per se. You know, it's still somebody worthy of love, worthy of attention, worthy of time, all the love languages, all of the above. And I think I misunderstood Tommy's question at first, because disclosure, we were talking about like HIV status.
Yeah.
When I Okay, my total bad on the comment I said earlier then, where
That's
it was
okay.
like better to love and not. I misunderstood.
It's all good. It's all good. There is like one important detail, I guess. So in many states, in many like countries, in many places, it is also illegal to have sex without disclosing status. If you are positive, if you know you have HIV, or you know maybe you're living with another STD that is chronic as well. So it is illegal. It is, you know, like criminalized, which is, I guess, opinions of legal and criminal things aside, opinions of that aside, that is a whole nother aspect to it. We're not legally required to disclose sexuality, at least not here. And I think it is an important topic to think about in places like New Zealand. That law is a little bit different. It's not, you have to disclose before you have sex with someone. It's, you have to disclose if you are, you don't have to disclose if you are undetectable and use a condom. which is a very different stance to take. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of similarities, but that's one big difference that I can see of coming out and disclosure of status.
I believe in Florida it applies to all STIs and STDs, and it gives the other, if they don't disclose them before engaging in sex, or if they hide it, the person can be pursued and prosecuted. And I think a lot of that, if you look into it, stems back from like the 80s when the AIDS epidemic came out, because it was just like a huge wave of fear, and they did everything in their power to try and put fear into, they were afraid of something they didn't know, so they wanted to instill fear in those they didn't know to prevent it from whatever. But now they made a bit of a mess.
And people still don't get tested, still don't know their status because of that, because, oh, I'm going to be criminalized if I know. So why just not get tested? Why not know? Why not know?
See, in this case,
Ignorance being bliss.
Yeah, it's ignorance isn't bliss in this case. You know what I mean? Like, you have to know. And you know what? I would be lying if I said that I wasn't one of those people that ignorance is bliss. You know what I mean? Like, I was just out there just having sex with everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't care who you were, I was having sex with. And you would tell me, you told me your status, and I didn't care. Like, I was like, all right, like, I don't know if this is the right way to say this live, but just let's get our nut off. Like, that's just how you know what I mean? Like, that's how I was. I just really didn't care. I kind of wish I was, though. I kind of wish I did get tested on the regular. Like I did when I was in the military. The military would do that. If the first sign of one STI, they were like, all right, you're getting tested for all of them. And it was like after 6 months. And so if you didn't hear anything back from them, then you were good. So I never heard anything back from them. So I'm like, I'm gravy, yes. Like, I can just continue on having unprotected sex.
But I think it's important.
No, well, Tommy, you go first.
I just think it's important to know that, like, you can't blame people for being scared. Like, it's not your fault that you are scared to get tested. There's lots of situations that make it scary to get tested, and not just criminalization, but stigma too. There's lots of different parts of stigma. You go ahead, Daniel. Sorry.
So going back to what you were saying about testing, is unfortunately, and not a lot of people know this, but not every medical center that does some sort of medical care, whether it's pregnancy, gynecology, whatever, not all of them will test for everything based off of one positive result for, like, if they just tested for syphilis, there's still a lot of places that don't have their common practice, or at least then they haven't been trained to, okay, that's a sign that they have possibly been exposed to other STIs and STDs, to screen for all that. I've actually had two things with like professionals, making sure we double down on this. Like, hey, if you ever get a test, or someone mentions this, that, or the other in your normal conversations, you got to recommend this full test. And another misconception is we run into a lot of people that say, I had a full panel, I'm okay. Then when you ask them, okay, what was on that full panel, they have no idea. They just, when people hear full panel, they assume everything was done, including STIs, STDs, blah, blah, but that is not what happens. I always tell people, it's like, make sure you discuss, number one, for providers, to make sure that they are aware and vigilant of when they need to provide all of the testing, including HIV, because that one can get skipped a lot. And then for clients or people, everyday people, it's like, make sure that you are asking for, hey, full panel, what's that consist of? STIs, what are you testing me for? And you sometimes have to be specific and ask for, can you add on the HIV? Can you add on this? And sometimes, depending on insurances, some of them will limit how many times you can get it done in a year. So yeah.
You got something from Prashard. Oh my gosh.
No, yeah. But no, I'm so glad you brought that up, Sam, because if not, it would have totally like crossed my mind. But that's like a huge thing. I like to make sure, but that's two sides of the same coin. It's making sure that your everyday people know how to be health literate, when people are being told full panel, it's like, oh, well, let me ask further details. And then for providers, it's like, hey, learn how to read the signs and act on them.
No, literally, closed mouths will not get
Okay,
better.
Sam, you are in good hands.
No, like
Yeah.
if you do not ask for, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'll just like reiterate because you sort of like hinted at this, but it is, if you have an STD, if you have one STD, there's a higher likelihood that you also have another. Like there's a higher risk for getting other STDs. If you are living with an STD currently, you can shed like cells of different STDs. Like it all adds up. It all comes together. But yeah. So, how do y'all feel? Are y'all ready for Yum of the Day, or should we keep talking about this?
I'm having
Hit me.
fun. So.
Yeah, I'm cool with Yum of the Day. Let's see.
Can sexual health just be more of a discussion when talking to our doctors? Is that a normal thing?
I feel
Yeah.
like it could be a normal thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we all have sex. We all do it.
Absolutely.
Like, why do we make it so weird to talk about?
It's so crazy because we think health, when we think about healthcare providers, we go into that little bubble of what we expect them to need to know and not have to tell them more. But honestly, with healthcare providers, the more you tell them, the more they are able to assist you. Or with people who work in linkage services or health, any type of whatchamacallit, like case management type stuff, the more you're able to tell them comfortably, the more they were able to assist you. And this goes even down to drug use. Like if people aren't telling me what their risk factors are, like if they snort drugs and stuff, how am I going to connect them to some of the other things? Like a lot of people don't know snorting drugs is a big risk for hepatitis C. When you're sharing the materials and stuff, it's just like the more you can tell somebody, the provider, the more they're able to help you or refer you into the right realm. Because if you're ever going to tell somebody that level of information, the second that they're right there with your psychiatrist. Possibly it's like tell your provider everything.
I also kind of think too
Have
that
no shame.
I was gonna say I think we kind of like compartmentalize like doctors into just being people to treat like asthma, heart disease, like things like that. But we never want to think about our sexual health that way. And at the same time, we're also taught that sex is kind of like a bad thing, and anything that happens with your sexual health is a sign of a bad thing, and you probably deserved it. So people aren't as empowered or as educated to share these things with their doctor. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff, a lot to unpack.
I've got a secret. Everyone watching this or listening to this later, there's a big secret y'all need to know, and that's that sex is a taboo, but guess what? Everyone's doing it.
How did you get here? You're here for a reason. Your mom and dad did it, just saying. But
sex is so far from a taboo, but it gets treated like that sometimes. It's like, it is just a part of, being a healthy, everyday, normal human.
All right, so we're gonna do Yum of the Day.
Except Papa. He's superhuman.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, there's a little lag.
All right. So let's go into Yum of the Day. So this is a separate segment. This is a little game that we're gonna play. I got a couple of words. I got a couple phrases, and I want y'all to tell me what they mean.
Can I do the first one though?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but I'll let you finish though.
That was it.
Okay. All right. So my word is closet case.
¿Qué es?
Closet.
Like, what is it? Like Spanish?
Yeah, like,
just say
what do you
Spanish
think is the definition of this word?
The word closet case. The phrase closet case.
Or the phrase.
I would imagine it means that someone is in the closet.
Yes.
I agree.
And they won't come out? Maybe it's someone that just like won't come out?
It's basically someone who Yeah, Daniel, what?
To me, I'm hearing a lot of lag. I'm so sorry. The closet case to me is like they're crazy, girl. Like approach
really
with a 10-foot
crazy.
pole and riot gear.
No, so a closet case is actually Tommy and Sam were kind of like hitting it right on the nail. It's a person who is unable to admit that they're gay.
Okay.
Now, I can't think of a prime example, but that's just what I found out. So
Yeah,
that's my word.
Man, don't hire me to build your house. They can hit it on the nail. Apparently, I'm just like whacking around, twirling things.
Nothing on yet.
Playing jump rope with the tool belt.
No, wait, is it appropriate to say? I thought that was basket case.
well, yeah, basket case. Yeah, that's when someone's crazy. So yeah, I think that would be.
Right.
Oh, that's
That's
not
like
cute. But yeah, that's just, just to clarify. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay, Daniel, you got any words, or should I go for it?
Hit
Okay.
me.
All right. So I got a couple. It's gonna get harder, I guess, as we go. It's gonna get more difficult as we go.
Harder.
But so the first two I think are pretty. At least for me, they're pretty easy to guess the definition of. But y'all just go for it. DL.
Down low.
Yeah.
Down low.
What does that mean?
Down low. When a brother's down low, when he's trying to hide, he's gay. He's trying to hide it.
Okay. All right.
Straight to the point. There we go. I think
Samuel gets the point for that one.
I've been with a few.
Ding ding.
So I know.
On a similar vein, trade.
Ooh.
Oh, that one I don't understand.
So trade, from what I understand, isn't it someone who is gay but is very like masculine presenting?
They might not identify as gay. I don't know. It just
Or that too.
It usually refers to like. Oh, I don't know, Samuel, if you wanted to add anything.
No, that trade, like gay for pay.
No, I think that's different.
So at least Urban Dictionary suggested that's where the term came from, like trade it for sex, trade money for sex, whatever. But yeah, trade relates to like being kind of. But trade relates to like just hyper masculinity, like that super masculinity, and also, getting on with dudes.
Trade. I just like saying it.
Trade.
We love trade.
Okay, this is a silly one. It's unique. Docking.
Like that's a sexual word.
It is very sexual. Yes, it's a sexual word. Yes.
Oh, it's like when you take a boat and putting in a
No, what?
penis to penis. Penis to penis, and one of them is required to have foreskin. If not, I'm sorry, but you fail to meet the minimum height requirements to ride this ride.
Yes, that is it. So penis to penis, and then there's a foreskin involved. It's a very silly thing. I don't, what it said in the.
It's only gay if the balls touch.
Yeah. But what it said in the article was, anything can happen if you're creative. Anything can happen if you're trying.
I've said that before. A lot in my 20s.
Yeah.
All right. I've got
a very simple one.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because this one threw me for a curveball when somebody came in saying this word, yelling it in front of their mother. And I'm like, bro, like, you're just cool with your mom like that? He came in screaming this word. It's hooking up, hooked up. What is the definition of hooked up? Or hook up? What's a hookup?
A hookup?
They had sex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like you had sex with somebody, like we hooked up.
I mean, that's kind of like all over the place.
Well, yeah, but like for some people, like hookup doesn't really mean.
Or they got together.
Yeah, could mean they kissed. I don't know. It's all over the place. Yeah. I feel like.
I always thought it meant like sex. Like that's my whole school, like middle school below. That was sex. So this guy comes in yelling in front of his mom, I just hooked up with blah, 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 blah. In my mind, I'm like, you're just announcing in front of your mother, like, your sexual escapades. And then he's like, no, bro, I just went out on a date and we kissed. And I'm like, oh.
But for me, that's like
Generation
a link
gap.
up. That's like a link up or a meet up, not a hookup. A hookup is like business. Like that's
Cultural appropriation of gay.
like.
All right, I got one more. For y'all. Impact play.
When they're both positive, you play?
Impact play, not both positive. No.
Just one?
Impact play. Isn't that like when you hit like there's like you hit? No. Yeah, it's like when they hit their balls and stuff. No, like cock and ball torture type stuff.
That's very possible. Impact play is a really wide array of sexual behaviors, I guess I'll call it. It could include spanking. It could include smacking. Could include whips. Just impact. Some sort of impact involved in sex.
DJ, please cue whip noise.
Well, that's all I got. That's all I got for today. I didn't keep track of points, but everyone gets 1,000.
Yeah.
Everyone gets a trophy for being here.
Well, are there any last things that we want to say before we head out?
No, I do want to say though, if you do want to participate in more discussions like these, or want to come and bug Tommy, Daniel, or I, because we all do facilitate City Mix and Impact over here in St. Peter and in Tampa. We do virtual sessions too. With City Mix, it is basically a really nice little overview of sexual health discussions that we have, and it's always really fun and casual. And with Impact, it is for people who are living with HIV. So if you're interested, hit us up. Email us, call us, all that, and we will get back to you.
Awesome. Before we go, I just wanted to Gesundheit.
Bless you.
There's that daily sneeze.
Before we
I'm
go,
alive.
I just wanted to mention some of the things that people are doing to sort of help out or try to help out the Hispanic Latinx community. There's a lot of different things that are going on through the CDC, through Metro. There's a lot of different programs that happen to try and impact this community specifically, to try and help this community specifically. The CDC provides grants along with other organizations. They provide grants every year to fund very specific organizations, or what do we call them? And I don't know why I can't think of it right now. Interventions. High impact prevention interventions, or to fund organizations specifically. One thing that I would like to mention is something called PUSH. So it's a new project that we're starting. So we are doing a study, and Pablo and I are part of it. PUSH is a study for 15 to 24 Black or Latinx young adults, youth. So it is a really exciting opportunity where people can get involved and learn a little bit, but the goal is to learn about how youth in that group get support that they need for their sexual health. So it is a sexual health study. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. But yeah, if you are interested in the PUSH study, reach out to Pablo or I. But
it's paid too, just so y'all know. It is paid.
But thank you for joining us today. If you feel so moved that you want to, oh yeah, what were you saying, Daniel?
Oh, well, I took my head. I was just saying the DJ noises. Here I am. Yeah, cha-ching.
Awesome. So if you feel so moved that you want to help us keep these programs going, you can donate to our Keep It Virtual program using Text to Give number by texting Metro to 44321 on the screen right now. Stay up to date on COVID and the CDC information. Always stay safe. We love you, and I hope y'all have a good one. It's been fun.
And lastly, round of applause for Sam. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
For joining us and for sharing all of that today. It was such valuable information, and I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you. Could I say one thing?
Yeah.
Just remember that we're all that you matter, that you're worth being here, and that if you're going through something, just open up your mouth and just share it, and don't keep it to yourself. I always try to tell everybody that I meet, that I speak to, that because a lot of times we tend to walk around in this world, we feel like we're alone, that we're unseen, and that's not the case. So, but yeah, if anybody hasn't told you that they loved you today, know that I love you.
Thank you, Sam.
And for $5 more, he'll say that again tomorrow. No, hit that donate button, girls.
Link in bio. There it is.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Pablo. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, Daniel.
All right.
Good night, y'all.
See y'all later.